Good morning, everyone, and welcome to January Sneak Peek. We have quite a bit of an audience today, so we're super excited to get started. I would like to extend a special welcome to our special guest from Converse College. And John, thank you for inviting your students today. We're super excited to have them with us. Just some bad news to kick things off, and then we'll get past that and move on to the happy stuff. Unfortunately, we had to reschedule Pique, which was scheduled for April. We've moved it into the fall. So we'll announce a date later on when we can decide if we can actually have an in-person event again, hopefully soon. It's nice seeing you guys on Zoom, but we'd really like to see you in person again. So to kick things off, let's, in the chat, if you could tell us how you heard about Sneak Peek so we can make sure we're targeting the right people and make sure we're advertising the right way. And then as we're doing that, I'm going to turn it over briefly to Stinson Ferguson, and she is going to talk about creating a safer Upstate initiative.
Thank you, Jessica. Good morning, everyone. This is fun to see everyone's faces. My name is Stinson Ferguson. I'm talking to y'all from Greenville. I'm from Spartanburg. I'm a huge fan of the Upstate, and I'm thankful to be with y'all for a few minutes this morning. I'm going to share a little bit of info with y'all about a new 10 at the Top initiative called Creating a Safer Upstate. First, housekeeping. My smoke detector battery is low, so you will hear that in the background. I apologize, and my cat may jump and attempt to enter the frame. So just keep going. This Creating a Safer Upstate was launched by, of course, our ED, 10 at the Top ED, Dean Hebel, and Anderson Mayor Terrence Roberts back in the fall or sometime in the summer. So fall, winter, we convened a steering committee, and that was, we had a really diverse group of people involved with that from all the counties in the Upstate. We had law enforcement, elected officials, people working for nonprofits, really just interested people who are active in their communities, men, women, everybody looked, different. We had a great group, and we met over the course of 4 months and came up with, we refined the 3 goals. We were working with a facilitator, Stan Davis. He's still working with us, and he's awesome. And we refined the 3 goals, with the help of Stan Davis. Now we're in the implementation stage. We're no longer in that steering stage. We finished that at the end of last calendar year. And then we asked the folks, the whole steering committee, who wants to remain involved. And we got some good responses from that. And now we are transitioning to a formal committee with co-chairs. Those co-chairs are myself and Sheriff Rick Clark from Pickens. And we've got 3 subcommittees, 1 for each of the 3 goals. So I'm sure you're probably asking, what are the 3 goals? I'm going to put this link. I don't suggest you look at it now because I question if you'd be able to do that and listen to what I'm saying, but I will put the link that will take you directly on the 10 at the Top website to where all of our info about the initiative is located, as well as the 3 goals. And during the steering phase, we focused on purpose, strategy. As I stated, we refined the 3 goals, and we also have, as you'll see if you follow that link, possible action steps for each goal. And those goals are all surrounding improving and enhancing law enforcement relations with community relations with law enforcement, with the goal of enhancing vibrancy, ensuring vibrancy. I don't think I need to speak long about the connections between the safety of our communities, not just the actual safety, but how safe we feel, because there are times when I'm probably in a safer environment than I feel like I'm in, and vice versa. And so there's a clear connection between safe communities and economic development, people wanting to move to a place, people just being happy in a place. If you don't feel safe, you're not going to be spending as much time thinking about how to make your community more vibrant and better if your basic needs related to safety aren't being met. So we're establishing subcommittee members at this time. Just to give you a feel for some of the questions we were asking ourselves during the steering process, what does a safer upstate look like for you? I didn't know what my answer was to that question when we started. point being, it's okay for you not to have answers to be a part of this. We also asked who actually has the influence and power to help us push this forward. What about our committed? What about our communities that are primarily Spanish speaking? How do we touch and engage them? One of our aims also is to include and elevate input and energy from younger professionals. No matter what we develop in this committee, if we don't do this, we won't capture a vital component of our community, and I don't think we'll be effective. Long story short, we need y'all more than you need us. So a few things to think about. What would being part of this initiative bring to you? I always ask, what's in it for me? I like to help people, but I also like to know what's in it for me. Good opportunity to get some exposure to people all over the Upstate. I don't think you're going to get a better opportunity to meet people, connect with people, work with people, really build enduring relationships with people from all over the Upstate. Further connect with people from 10 at the top, board members, execs, people who are just kind of on the team. That's been really fun for me as well. This is a place where you are needed. I find as a young professional, we get asked to do a million things, but if this is something that really catches your interest, this is something you can be involved in where I don't think you'll feel like if I dropped off the face of the earth today, they can just find someone to replace me. So this is a place where you will be appreciated and valued and needed. 10 at the top is just acting as a convener to promote those goals. We're not going to go to each county and check up on people and grade them and make sure they're doing things. We are trying to develop a playbook, help the transfer of information, and just get everybody on the same page. I think there's no better organization than 10 at the top to do that. We don't talk about politics to the extent that they're not relevant. We don't talk about things. It's just very focused, and we've got law enforcement on board. We've got community on board. We're really going to do some great things, but we need y'all's help. Please contact Justine directly. If you'd like to know more, feel free to find me on LinkedIn. I really hope, even if you don't think you're the person for it, I really would love if you would send some names that may be in your network to Justine. If there are any questions, again, please let me or Justine know. And finally, I heard there are a lot of Converse College women on here, Converse College students on here. I'm a 2007 Converse College grad, and I'm glad to know that I'm among friends. You're at a great college. Love our president, love our professors. Go Valkyries.
Love that. Awesome.
Thank you.
Could you, Stinson, could you do us a favor and just briefly give us an idea what 10 at the top is?
Absolutely. I will. And this is a test because I actually just joined the board this month. I've been involved previously. So 10 at the top is, I would pull up the website. My cat is licking my sleeve right now. So 10 at the top is an organization, of course, that captures an umbrella organization that captures all of the 10 counties in the Upstate. And it serves as a convener with anything that has a connection. At the end of the day, I think our why is this important for a vibrant Upstate, and why is this important for our economies, which is a, it's broader than we think, but I think it's been drilled into me early that if we can't make the connection between vibrancy, economy, and just quality of life, it's not going to be something on 10 at the top's radar. Not a political organization, very diverse people on board, super cool group of people that are energized and care.
Yeah, we're heavy into why, Stinson. So could you help me understand why you joined the organization? And I'd love to hear, I hate to bogart the conversation, but I'm old. I'd love to hear from other folks about why y'all are here.
Thank you. That's a good question. And a question I've learned to ask myself more the older I get. Sometimes it's time to leave and I don't realize it, but I'm super excited about 10 at the top because I've lived all over the state. I just got back from Charleston for the second time a year ago. I've lived and worked in Columbia. I love my South Carolina, but there is something special about the Upstate. And it's literally home, and it's going to feel like home regardless. 10 at the top specifically, I like that we have people from everywhere on whatever people consider to be a political spectrum right now. You may one week be in a group or in a presentation interacting with someone who we know is an elected official that is far right leaning. We may have somebody that's far left leaning. Like, I really don't care for the most part. I'm trying to figure out what can we do together. And 10 at the Top seems to take that same attitude, serious about inclusivity, serious about making sure that what the organization does and puts their people up to do is worthwhile and a worthwhile use of people's time. It's mutual benefits.
Wow, thank you, Stinson. What a great advocate for 10 at the Top. We will have a time at the end today that people can talk about news and what's going on with their organization, and maybe we could weave their interest in the group into that as well if we have time. Thank you so much, Stinson.
Thank y'all. Enjoy.
Thanks, Stinson. So now I'll turn it over to Jason to introduce our speaker today.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Stinson. Thank you, Jessica. Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Weidman. I'm with ScanSource and also the co-chair of the 10 at the Top Pique committee. So thanks so much for joining us today. What a great crowd we have, and it's great to see everyone. I'm coming to you from Anderson, South Carolina, and I'm just curious, are there any Anderson residents out there? Anyone from Anderson? Maybe not. It's not as big as Spartanburg and Greenville.
Actually, so. Our chair, the chair of our 10 at the Top board is on today, Mr. Mayor Terrence Roberts, and he is from Anderson.
Mr. Roberts is on. Awesome. Good deal. Well, that's the best person you can have from Anderson on here, right? Awesome. Well, I'm very excited to introduce two of my friends and coworkers today, Joey Malamug and Abby Blackwell, who are both part of ScanSource's amazing human resources team, and they're going to be discussing an extremely relevant topic, which is networking in a digital age. And I think this is something that resonates so well with all of us, especially with everything going virtual and with so many companies and organizations planning to operate remotely for quite some time. So we'll have a Q&A at the end of the presentation, and we encourage you to participate in that and ask any questions you might have. But without further ado, I'll let Joey and Abby take it away.
Thank you, Jason. And I have a presentation to share, so let me get that on the screen really quickly. Can everyone see the presentation? Okay, perfect. Good. Well, to start out, I know Jason briefly introduced me and Joey, but again, my name is Abby Blackwell. My role at ScanSource, I am an HR specialist, so my job really revolves around college and university relations and recruiting in order to build a pipeline of talent for our internship program. And then I help assist Joey with all full-time recruitment at ScanSource. And with that, I'll give it over to Joey to give a brief introduction about himself as well.
Morning, everyone. My name is Joey. As Abby said, that we work on the recruitment team. So I am the recruiting manager for ScanSource. And what Abby and I do, we essentially lead the talent acquisition efforts for all of ScanSource North America, including our family of brands.
Thank you, Joey. So today we will go ahead and get into the information that we will be covering about networking in a digital age. And the things we'll be going over in this presentation, we will be talking about how you should be setting your networking goals, where are opportunities that you can network virtually, and then we're going to talk through how to utilize all of those virtual networking opportunities to your fullest advantage, and then go over the do's and don'ts of networking. And a lot of these you'll get throughout the presentation, but we just want to drive home the fact of the things that you should really be doing during this time. And then in the end, we're going to open it up for Q&A as well as share our own information so you can network with us. So starting with networking, it is always important, even when we were in person, to determine what intention you have behind your networking. You know, you should never go out just blindly connecting with people. You should always have, and I feel like most people always have an understanding of what they're doing when they're going out and meeting new people or reaching out to people to build their network. So, it could be things like, do you want to strengthen prior relationships? So this could be with your network that you have already. So are you reaching out to them to send them an email to catch up with them? Are you jumping on a phone call with them? Or are you following up on LinkedIn by interacting with their content? That's one of the first goals that you could potentially have. And the next one that we look at is, do you want to make new connections, which is generally the biggest one when we're thinking about networking, is building upon the network that we have already by adding new people. The next is finding new opportunities. So again, this could be your goal. You could be thinking about changing jobs and reaching out to other companies. So that could be another goal that you have by looking at networking. And then one of the other ones that we wanted to go into was gaining industry knowledge. So are you connecting with other individuals because you want to find a mentor to guide you, or are you trying to get more information about the companies that are out there? So again, it's about gaining knowledge and expanding that network that you currently have. When looking at where we can network currently, and given the situation that we are in, we look at one, virtual events, which is something like we're attending today. The next is social media, so things like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Then we also have within your own organization. And then finally, we're going to touch on your alma mater's career center. So looking at the first one that we mentioned, we're going to dive into utilizing your virtual events. So like I stated, a virtual event could be like we're attending today, where you join a Zoom call and you're going over information and attending, a workshop or a networking event in general. So the first thing to do is to do your research. So I know for this event, there was an email that was sent out introducing Joey and myself and stating what we would be going over. So this is a great opportunity to do your research about who's presenting. So it's very easy to do a quick LinkedIn search or a Google search to find out more about your presenter, to gain more knowledge on them. So again, utilizing Google and LinkedIn to get to know the presenter. From there, we always encourage people to spark conversation with what you've gained from researching about this person. Obviously, don't be creepy about it, don't know their whole life story, but have an understanding of what company they work for and what their job is. Because when you do that, when you log on early to these conversations, for example, today I logged on early to this conversation and it was just me and Justine. So I was able to talk to her, get to know a little bit more about her role. And it's a great opportunity to be able to network with those people who jump on early. Because once it gets to the top point of there being, 55 people in a room, it makes it a little bit harder to have those one-on-one conversations because you're talking over people. So if you jump on early, you're able to have those conversations, whether it's the presenter in the room, which would be great, or other people who are also early. So it gives you, again, the opportunity to network and get to know people. And then the next is providing feedback or thoughts on the points that are covered during that presentation. Another great thing, me and Joey notice it all the time when we go to present to classes or present to other organizations, the people who follow up with questions at the end are the ones who we really remember. The ones who have their camera on, the ones who follow up with questions, and the ones who follow up after the fact, those people we remember the most. So by doing your research in the beginning, getting understanding of, the content that's going to be covered and the presenter, it gives you time to think about those questions that you can ask at the end of the presentation very early on. So again, just coming prepared with some thoughts and opinions on the topic that is being covered. And then the next one kind of bounces a little bit off of the topic that I touched on, but is to send a message after the fact. So let's say you jumped on the meeting early, you met a couple of people, got to know them. That's where you could follow up via LinkedIn or email, connect with them, send them a thank you, say, I'd love to follow up with you and talk more about the topic that we were on the discussion today. And again, this is a great time to follow up with any other questions that you may have the presenter to keep the conversation open-ended to allow for more conversation between you both. And again, going back to thinking back on the goals that we just covered. So am I talking to this person because I want a job? Am I talking to this person because I want to gain knowledge that they might have? Do I want to expand on my network? So thinking about those goals and articulating those goals. So, if you're interested in their company, making sure they know that. Say, hey, I'm really interested in ScanSource and the opportunities that you guys have to provide. I'm really excited to connect with you and get to know a little bit more about your company as well as you in that process. So bouncing over to LinkedIn, because I know in the prior slide, I touched a good bit on following up on LinkedIn, researching on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is an amazing opportunity that all of us have to utilize during this time. And I want to note that with LinkedIn, I always like to say, just because you connect with someone doesn't mean you have an actual connection with them. So we are going to be following up in ways that you can make sure that you're just not someone that they're adding to their list, but you're someone who's very intentional and helpful with their LinkedIn network. So the first thing you need to do if you don't have a LinkedIn or your LinkedIn is a little bit outdated, make sure that you're going in and updating your LinkedIn. So making sure you have your resume uploaded, making sure you have a professional headshot there, as well as listing your skills at the bottom of your LinkedIn page and your work experience. Something that I love about the skills section is that your network can actually endorse these skills and go in and say, yes, this person has these skills. So I love to see, you know, especially with me and Joey being recruiters, being able to go into a LinkedIn person's profile and see that, you know, they've listed these skills that we're looking for, but their network of connections have also endorsed these skills. So again, that's where your network that you're going to be building can come in handy for your LinkedIn profile. But again, going off of connecting with people. So you're going to want to be intentional when you are networking. So, you know, you shouldn't go in blindly just clicking connect, because I know it's very easy when you go into the networking portion of LinkedIn. It gives you people, you know, who are in the same area as you or have the same job as you. And that's great. But, you know, when you're just connecting, you're not being intentional about what you're doing. So thinking about the companies that you're interested in. So maybe you want to connect with people who are in the same industry as you, or connect with people who have roles that interest you within that industry or another industry. But being very intentional about the people that you are connecting with and having a purpose behind that connection. And when you do that, it makes it very easy to follow the next step, which is all about sending a message to that person. So this goes back to not just connecting to someone, but making sure you have an actual connection. So when you send that connection link, there's the option to follow up and add a note. You should always do this. I know I'm guilty not doing it myself. I've tried to be better at it because it really does help you build your network and help open up a conversation. So when you send that connection link, again, it's going to ask to add a note, and that should always be left open-ended. So you're not given a lot of characters. I think at max it's about 300 characters, but it gives you enough information to be able to give a short introduction about yourself and then tell them why you're following up with them. So maybe it's to say, again, hey, Joey, my name is Abby Blackwell. I'm very interested in an opportunity at ScanSource. I saw you worked in the field that I'm interested in. Could you tell me a little bit more about how the department at ScanSource works? So again, leaving it open-ended so that person can follow up with you so you can bounce off each other and start that conversation that in turn is going to help you build those connections better. But with that, I am going to pass it over to Joey to continue the presentation and talk more about the other virtual opportunities that you do have to utilize when networking. Oh, Joe, you're on mute.
Yes. So that right as I started talking, sorry about that, guys. There we go. So Abby's touched on a few things that you can do to build your network, whether it be virtually or through different types of platforms and events. Today, I'm going to touch on a couple of resources that you either may not necessarily know about or are just underutilized. So one of those resources is the obvious, is your current employee, your current employer. Are you leveraging the community that you're already a part of? So gone are the days where you can casually swing by someone's desk or have random chats at the water cooler or break area. So what is it that you do, right? So one of those things that we suggest is schedule a virtual coffee chat or find opportunities to be able to job shadow or find mentorship. With a virtual coffee chat, it's about being intentional with who you want to make a connection or build a relationship with. So one of the things that I think about in my day-to-day is there somebody that you reach out to pretty often just because of you know, your normal day-to-day task? Do you send an invoice or an email to somebody that you don't know personally, but because it's part of your job, that's something that you do? There's nothing wrong with breaking the ice by sending a message or email, stating your intention and maybe scheduling some time with that team member. Find ways to connect with that person and how you can best support them. I think Stinson always mentioned, you know, it has to be mutually beneficial, right? So work is a great way, especially if you're interacting with them on the daily, but you just don't know who they are personally. So not only does that help build out your network, but you're also fostering a positive work environment. With shadows and job shadows and mentorship, does your organization provide opportunities to shadow or have a mentorship program? One of the things that comes to mind when I think about what we do at ScanSource is we have a program called a Walk a Mile program, and it comes from the saying, walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. So this gives the opportunity for an employee to shadow somebody for a few hours. It's a great learning experience, and it's also a way to interact with a team that they may not necessarily always get to interact with. So does your organization have something similar to that? Again, in a pre-COVID world, we would normally just set that up and they would go to that person's desk and sit by them and observe. We can now do it virtually too. We have the ability to share screens, or maybe it's more of a fruitful conversation versus just actually seeing the technical aspects and functional aspects about the role that that person does. There are other company resources as well. So are you taking the full advantage of the different resources that your company provides? There's a company, maybe your company has a Facebook page for employees where you can find and learn about some of the other people and what they're doing on the regular, whether it be at home or in their or with the company. LinkedIn pages, Abby touched on this, you know, do you have team members or know of other members within your organization? LinkedIn is a great way for you to be able to build those connections and start that relationship. And then lastly, because I'm in HR, I had to plug this, you know, are you familiar with your HR team? Do you know who they are and what kind of resources they can provide to you? HR is usually always in support to the employees that they serve. So always reach out to them and see what they can do for you, especially if there might be opportunities for you to do a job shadow or an official mentorship program that your company provides. So another resource that might be underutilized is the alumni career services from your alma mater. Are you leveraging the communities that you've been a part of? So some ways that you can get involved, city networking events. Oftentimes schools will host different types of alumni events that might be specific to your city or town, whether or not your school is based where you're currently at. I know Furman has a wide I'm a graduate of Furman, and I know that they have a wide-reaching nationwide network of different types of Furman alumni ambassadors, even though they might be in California or somewhere else outside of Greenville in the Upstate. Alumni portals. Are you registered with your school's alumni portal or a member of the Alumni Association? This is a great way for you to connect with new alumni and maybe even catch up with friends that you might have lost touch with. One of the things that is kind of new and upcoming for some of you Converse students on the line might be familiar with this as well. But there is a platform called Handshake. It is newer to the scene, I feel like. What it is basically it's a different portal for students and alumni that's a collection and network of different schools. And there's a ton of schools on the Handshake network. Schools use it as their Facebook-like platform to essentially host and advertise events. And those events can range anywhere from a career fair, whether it be alumni or not, or undergrad. It ranges from opportunities where schools might bring on an employer to do some type of spotlight, and you can register through the Handshake network. Again, it's really focused a lot on undergraduates. However, what I've noticed about Handshake is that it's starting to slowly build a base of alumni. So it's something to definitely think about as you begin to think about how you network virtually. And then lastly, state your goals. You know, I'm going to throw a plug in for your career services. So your career services center at your school where you might have graduated from is always going to be in service to you, even as an alum. So connect with one of those advisors and have them help you connect with others. Career Services usually has a plethora of resources for you to be able to build a network with. They already have long-standing relationships with not just companies and organizations, but with other people in the community. So be sure to leverage those relationships and those connections. And for those of you that are still students in school, you're never going to have as many resources available to you as you do now, just by being a college student. So if you haven't already made a partner with some of your advisors or made a partner with those people in Career Services, we strongly suggest that you do so now. So some networking do's. So do provide your help. One of the things that I had mentioned before is, it needs to be a mutually beneficial type of give and take, right? So when you're out there building a network and making connections, find that common ground and how you can both best support each other. Be authentic and genuine in your interactions. So making sure that you're being intentional and you're being yourself. Abby mentioned logging in early. Logging in early is a great way to get additional information, whether it's contact information, whether it's tidbits about, a side conversation that you might have exposure to, but log in early and start to build those connections and finding those commonalities early on. And then do follow up to continue cultivating the relationship. So number one, find the balance in how often you follow up, and keep in mind that this is a marathon, not a sprint. So relationships are going to take time to nurture and cultivate. Some networking don'ts. Don't jump right into something. Relationships take time, so make sure that you're building the connection over time before you get to the ask. Again, like I said before, it needs to be mutually beneficial. Don't hide behind messages. At some point, you'll need to take the connection and the relationship to the next level, is what I like to say. Maybe it's not the first message where you say, hey, let's connect over video, but maybe later down the line, once you get to a point where both parties feel like they're comfortable enough with each other. Don't connect with just anyone. Again, it's that intentionality behind the connection. What is the goal? What is the purpose? And then lastly, don't overly check in with your connections. Again, find the balance. It might take several messages and emails over time to get to a good point. But know that maybe every day or every week might be too much. I mean, everybody has busy calendars and everybody's busy and has a ton of email messages. So making sure that you strike that balance of how do I continue to cultivate this relationship at the same time by not overly communicating my intent. So you don't want to look too eager at the same time. With that actually concludes what we have to say about networking in a digital age. And as Abby mentioned, here is our contact information. You can definitely reach out to us via email or even through LinkedIn, as we've discussed today. So I guess awesome. We'll just leave it open for Q&A if anybody has any questions.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Abby and Joey. That was great. And we actually have a question. I believe this was from Professor Jeter. And the question was, why is networking important? And could you touch on the importance of a personal brand? And again, if anyone else wants to jump in too and has some thoughts on this after Joey and Abby have a chance to respond, please feel free. But what's the importance of a personal brand and building that?
Gosh,
okay, you're good.
So personal branding, I mean, it is such an important part. And, you think about personal branding as a student, when we talk to students about creating a personal brand. I mean, it really starts off, and they don't tell you this, right? It really starts off the minute that you come onto the scene as a college student. I mean, you might have even created a personal brand for yourself to get into college while you were in high school. And that's just something that's going to carry on with you even into your professional careers. So how hard you work, how early you come to meetings, how early you come to event, all of that is part of your personal brand. So if you want your personal brand to be somebody who is a hard worker, who has longevity in a career, and who is committed and dedicated to the organization, and more importantly to the people that they serve within their organization, that's going to give you great opportunities for whether that could be an opportunity to move forward in your career, or it's all money in the bank. If you don't have a personal brand or one that has a great reputation, then that doesn't bode well, and it doesn't help for a professional career. One of the best examples that I give is, Facebook and social media has kind of put an interesting spin, I feel like, on your personal brand. So, when you think about, and there's always that debate about, employers, and I'm talking from somebody who's a recruiter and a manager, do we look at students' Facebook's page and, all that. One of the things that I'll say about it, because this relates totally to personal brand, if you look on your board, whether it be your Instagram page, whether it be your Facebook page, if you look at that, yes, is it your personal page and brand? Absolutely it is. And you have 100% control of that. Sometimes you don't, in terms of what your friends tag you in. But if you look at your social media pages and you look at it, and you can see what your personal brand is. So if your personal brand is out there helping the community and, rescuing puppies, whatever it could be, then that's great. But if your personal brand, and because of your pictures and the story that your social media platforms show, whether it's out having a good time, whatever it might be, then you have to think about what your personal brand truly is going to look like to an employer and to your organization. So again, that's not a stick on anything on social media. I'm just utilizing it as an example of what your personal brand could look like and how it can be perceived. So it's a very important piece of just building networks and relationships long term. So in terms of personal branding, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, no, those are great points, Joey. And I'll add, I think when you were talking about reputation and building that reputation early, I think that's key. I think especially in college and then doing internships, I personally think it's sometimes less about what you necessarily know and more about making those, having those experiences and making those connections and using those as building blocks to get to your next career stage. And if you build a really good reputation early, you're going to keep some really good references in your back pocket. And I'll also say, I don't think it's ever worth burning a bridge. I was early in my career, unfortunately, let go from 2 jobs in the agency world, and I was bitter and mad. But man, I kept those relationships, and they helped me get to that next step, even though I wasn't the right fit at the time for that agency or that organization. You always want to keep those relationships in your back pocket. They're worth a lot. So no, I think, yeah, building your reputation early is a great point. And also social media it can really work for you, but it can work against you too. I mean, as being HR professionals, you guys would know firsthand, but as much as HR may say, no, we don't look, I mean, people are looking, they're looking, and you do want to be selective of what you're sharing, because it's open to the public. Even if you have privacy settings, people can always find a way to get in there through someone else that they might know. So yeah, awesome points. Looking here in the chat to see if we have some, Dean, some great feedback from Dean. So everyone make sure you're checking the chat too, because some good conversation going on in there.
Hey, Jason, I just want to,
yeah.
I want to build on what you just said.
Yep.
We have a huge internship program at AFL, and that's something that we try to stress to every intern we have is you've got this amazing opportunity in front of you to meet people in all different jobs. You know, maybe you go in for an HR job and find out that you really like finance or something else. There's such an opportunity to network and get to know those people and take the time to sit down with some of them. Most of them, you know, they don't mind taking the time to talk to you and find out what you enjoy and offer direction for your life. So just really capitalize on those opportunities.
Yeah, very true. Well, and our HR pros on this call or meeting could answer this. I mean, how many students come out of college and one, go into a job that field that they've studied, and two, how many actually stay with the first job that you know, how long are they with that first job? Maybe a year, two max, right? So you can't kind of rest on your laurels and think, oh, it's my first job, I'm going to be here forever. I mean, that's a great outlook. I thought the same thing too, and I ended up at my first job for a year and a half. So whether it's your decision or your employer's decision, you know, to move on. But could you guys add some color to that?
From what I understand, and from, you know, I haven't been in this role for too long, but what we've seen, I think, Joey, isn't it 2 to 3 years that college students initially get out and work in that initial job for? And that's what we're seeing. You know, a lot of what we do in HR is figuring out how can we retain those people, because obviously we do want them to stay for longer, because a lot of times it is that person's decision to move forward. And of course, that network of connection is gonna help them do that. But we want to make sure that, you know, the network that they have within, you know, ScanSource or within the company that they have is strong enough to where they feel like they want to stay with that organization. So that's a big thing on HR's end, is making sure people feel connected, especially during this time. And is why Joey, you know, initially talked about HR being a resource for everyone, because that is something that is a concern. You know, if you don't feel like you have a network within the organization, you're probably going to be looking for another opportunity or trying to build your network somewhere else. So that's where, you know, HR, we really want to connect you with people within the organization that, you know, you're a part of and really help you build, because the reality that we're going to be in a virtual environment for the foreseeable future is probably very high. So making sure that we can, you know, cross those bridges and make sure that we can make a path where people are still able to network, still able to feel involved, because it is hard. You know, it was easy for me to look behind my shoulder, and Joey was sitting right behind me when we were at ScanSource. And now it is about being more intentional to continue feeling like you're a part of that organization by, you know, having Microsoft Teams calls with your other coworkers and reaching out to people intentionally to continue building that network, so you do feel like you're involved within the organization. Because I don't feel like if you're not doing that now, you're going to feel disconnected, and you're going to probably be looking for other opportunities when you shouldn't have to, because there is that network there. You just have to be more intentional now. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that answers the question or not.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think that's great. And I think finding a company too that has a great internship program with a high rate of being hired through that internship program is huge too. I think there's less risk involved coming out and taking an internship to kind of, like Jessica was saying, testing the waters and, you know, kind of seeing what you like. Maybe you're like, whoa, this isn't what I thought it was when I get into the real world. And so there's a lot less risk to that too. But it's adds a really good notch to your resume to build those experiences.
Mind
yes.
if I interrupt? I'm going real old school, but back in the day, I was able to take advantage of an opportunity to do a 2-week tryout. I was working at a company that I really liked, but I was super hyper ambitious. And, you know, back in the day, you had to use, you know, stamps and mail and weird things like that. But because of networking, I was able to get an opportunity to do a 2-week tryout at another company. So I just took 2 weeks off, you know, 2-week vacation or whatever. Is there anything like that? Is there anything that?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't think I've ever heard of something like that. I don't know if Joey are different, but I have not.
So just like a 2-week tryout, it depends on the organization. I know sometimes organizations will have some type of program where maybe they focus on new college students to where they can kind of come in and just, it's more of like a shadowing type of opportunity.
Right.
Some organizations have it. It just, I think it truly depends on the organization and if they have things like that. I know sometimes we might get a request from, you know, whether it's a school that we partner with, like a high school or something, to where they just want to take a, you know, understand what it is that ScanSource does. Or maybe there might be opportunities for, as opposed to doing like a 2-week trial, maybe it becomes more of a virtual info session, especially now in this day of age, to be able to discuss some of the different things. I know at ScanSource, we host a virtual open house that kind of culminates all of our efforts with our recruiting events throughout a semester. And then we break down each of our departments to be able to have the opportunity to discuss sales, and students can join that virtual open house session to learn just about the sales organization, or it's maybe supply chain or supplier services. So maybe it's, for us, it's less of doing like, hey, come on site, or let's do a 2-week program, immersive. It's less immersive and more informational, but I think it also depends on the company and the organization, if they have a program like that or not.
Okay, so I'm a young professional like all these awesome people here, and I can pick up the phone, call you and say, I'm not going to say, hey, my job really sucks and I really need to get out of here. But can I contact you and say, hey, I'd love an opportunity to take a look around, you know, just kind of see what ScanSource is, you know, take a day off from work or something from the job that sucks.
So good question. Normally what we would typically do is that if we had somebody that was, hey, I just want to talk to somebody a little bit about ScanSource, both Abby and myself are open to being able to have those discussions around not just opportunities, but just ScanSource in general. We call them ScanSource opportunities calls. So we are more than happy to at least have a conversation. You know, if it is something that you are just wanting to learn about, we're happy to help educate and talk about ScanSource for sure. If they're wanting to talk about opportunities, then we can definitely talk about opportunities. I mean, you probably, we're going to be the first touch point anyway. And we're happy to discuss some of the different types of opportunities that we might have open at ScanSource as well. And then we are also open to any type of questions, whether or not there's something that we have at that moment or something that could be potentially down the road.
Well, not just for students, but for these young professionals, you know,
yes, absolutely.
23, 25, 27.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can just pick up the phone and say, hey, you know, I'd love to learn more about ScanSource, and, you know, that'd be really cool.
And we can, that's a great way to start that and build that relationship, and we can figure something else at that point. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks.
One more question I wanted to get to from Sarah Butler before we move on to wrapping things up and talking about upcoming events and news. But Sarah was asking, she obviously you guys do heavy recruiting for ScanSource, but how much have you reached out to job seekers using LinkedIn? And I think probably now more than ever, you guys are doing that. I don't know. What are things you like to see, and what are things you could stand to never see again? I guess through on people's profiles.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I've had to do this a lot this week. Me and Joey have done this a lot this week. Looked up people on LinkedIn. I actually hit the maximum capacity of the people I was allowed to look up on LinkedIn this week. So I have done this a lot. You know, it's always good, going back to that slide that we had about LinkedIn, making sure that everything is updated and professional. The amount of times that, you know, I've scrolled through LinkedIn, especially with students and young professionals, and seen, you know, them have a selfie of themselves is immense. And that's definitely, you know, not the first thing that we want to see when we click on the profile. And probably if I'm looking for, you know, someone to fill a role, I'm probably not going to even click on that profile. I'm probably going to go to a person who probably has the same type of experience, but is better able to sell themselves on LinkedIn and looks more professional and put together. just because, again, it's all about, is this person going to be professional enough to be able to fill this role? And it starts, with that initial, what you see when you Google like a name, you see, their photo, and then you see their job title, and then that's kind of what you have to go off of and can click in and see more about them. The other thing I love to see is that skills section, because, if we're looking for someone who has excellent customer service or has presentation skills, if we're looking for those specific skills, you're able to go down and see what skills they have listed in their LinkedIn. And then with that, you're able to see, has anyone endorsed these skills? And you're able to look at those people as well. So is this someone who's, a professor of a university endorsing their skills? Or is this just, someone, like a family member endorsing their skills? There is a difference between, my dad endorsing my skills or Professor Joey endorsing my skills. So you're able to see, and bounce off and say, yes, these people have these skills because they have, 4 people within their network saying that they're excellent at customer service. So I really love to see the skills section. That's where I typically go down after I look at their experience. But I don't know, Joey, do you have any other things that you really look for?
So, I mean, all of what Abby said, for definitely. I think one of my pet peeves on LinkedIn is that it's not up to date. So their resume, if I have it, may not necessarily echo what is on their LinkedIn, but sometimes my first touch point might be LinkedIn. So it is important to keep it as up to date as you possibly can, and as much information as you want to put on there too. So I kind of look at LinkedIn as being your electronic resume. So if you have a resume that you submit to jobs, it should echo what I see on your LinkedIn profile. So I think that's probably the biggest one that I like to make sure happens on LinkedIn, is that it's just up to date. I think when we talk about what else, the selfie, obviously, like Abby mentioned, probably not the greatest, but if it's a clear headshot, I get it. Not everyone's going to have a headshot or a professional headshot, so I get it. But just making sure your picture is appropriate. Contact information, I get you probably don't necessarily want to put your full phone number or your address. Absolutely, you probably don't want to do that. However, an email address sometimes is actually very helpful, because for many people who don't have full access to LinkedIn or just has the basic, there's going to be a point where you can only send out so many messages. So if you have an email address on there, and I as a recruiter or as a hiring manager is looking at your LinkedIn profile and likes what they see, but doesn't have a way to contact you, you have to make sure that you cover all bases. So having a good email on there is also something that would be very, very helpful. I mean, we do utilize LinkedIn overall. When we get to LinkedIn, I do think of it as kind of a cold call for what we're trying to find, or if there's a difficult position that we are trying to fill. Absolutely. So we do utilize LinkedIn fairly often when we're out there trying to do any kind of active recruiting for many of our roles.
Hey, Joey.
So yeah.
How much stake do you guys put into volunteer community involvement boards, things like that? Obviously, when you're younger, you may not have board involvement, but you may have volunteered in the community through high school and through college and through your early career. Things like that all seem like good things to add. Do you look at those things on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, again, LinkedIn is also a great way to extend the story of your resume. So if in your resume, you just don't have enough space or real estate on your resume to be able to include some of those things, LinkedIn is a great way to be able to extend that. So again, it's a good way to continue the story of your resume. So things that might be important to you that you're just not able to put on your resume, put it in your LinkedIn profile. It's just another layer. It's another data point. It's another piece of information that we can glean outside of just the resume, if we wanted, as a recruiter or a manager, wanted to do a little more research on the candidate.
Awesome. Well, this great discussion, great questions. I'm loving what's going on in the chat too. But I did want to save just a few minutes to throw it back over to Jessica. Again, Abby and Joey, thank you so much. That was fantastic. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much, Abby and Joey. That was a lot of really, really good information. And I'm really happy that we had some of the Converse students able to join the call and hear that as well. Another really good networking tool is your local young professional groups. We have quite a few here in the Upstate, and several of those have representatives on this call. So we want to take an opportunity to let them tell us about events that are coming up so that we can help improve their involvement with the community, as well as getting other young professionals involved. So if anyone has any news or events, or you've seen a great webinar or something lately, please feel free to share now.
While people are maybe unmuting and chatting, I would like to hop in about 10 at the top briefly. I will put some links to our upcoming events in the chat. Closest one, February 4th, is our Upstate Entrepreneur Ecosystem, and that will be with Earl Gregorich of the SBDC, and also one of Senator Tim Scott's policy advisors about the second draw of PPP loans. So if you're involved in your organization with that, that will be a very handy workshop next week on the 4th. I'll put that in, and the rest of them I'll just put in the chat and let some other people talk.
I have an announcement real quick. This is Sarah Butler with USC Upstate for the Johnson College of Business, but I also on the board for Spartanburg Young Professionals, which is the Spartanburg Young Professionals Group. It's also known as SIP. And there is an event that's coming up on February 1st, and it's about mentorship. So learning more about obtaining a mentor as a young professional and the mentor programs that are currently available. So I'll post in the chat a link of how to sign up for that. For our college students, I know at USC Upstate and the College of Business, you can get reimbursed for your membership. If that's not a thing at Converse College, please ask your career services department to see if that is a thing, if that's something that you would be interested in. And so we'll be hearing from Milliken's Diversity and Inclusion Director, Rakay Harris, and she'll be discussing that, and that will be on Zoom, and that's Monday, February 1st from 6 to 7.
Thanks, Sarah.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Haggerty with the City of Greenville, and I just wanted to give a little shout out to our entrepreneurial programs that we're starting to really ramp up in our community. And that's something, we're starting several different programs with various partners, so it's not necessarily the city specifically doing it. But Furman University, they have an Office of Innovation. And
if you could please mute if you're not speaking. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Not you. Sorry, not you.
Yeah, but I just wanted folks to know that if you are someone who has an idea, or you just want to learn more about entrepreneurism and how you can take an idea and run with it, and maybe that's just a side project while you are working somewhere, that there's some opportunities for you here in Greenville. And Next is a really great partner. And I just wanted to give a shout out to some of those programs. So you're welcome to contact me, send me a little chat, and I can email you. But there are other avenues for jobs and stuff in our area as well. And some of those startups that exist in our community are hiring also. So this is a really great way to get involved with some of those startups and be a part of it. So thanks.
Thanks, Emily. Anyone else?
I had a question, if that's okay.
Sure.
So for Joey and Abby, I'm wondering, because you had mentioned earlier being interested in a company that might not have spots open at that time. How do you continually network and not get lost in the shuffle of a bunch of candidates without staying in eye view too much?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it's something, again, going back to trying to find that perfect balance of, reminding a hiring manager that you're still here. And the best way that I would encourage this, because I have candidates that do that and they'll, send me a message once a month, but during, those times there's still nothing on the job board. So I think it's really following their job board, because during those opportunities calls, they're going to tell you probably what roles that you'd be suited for or interested in. And then from there, I would just check in with their job board, every other week or once a month. Our job board, I know, updates fairly regularly. So staying up to date with that job board changing. And once you see one of those jobs pop up, apply to it and then reach out to that recruiter, letting them know that you've applied to that role, because that will put you back on their radar. They'll know that they've talked to you, and it will keep that process moving a little bit more. Because if there aren't any roles, or the role that they've stated that you'd be suited for isn't on the job board, there's not much that they can do. So if you're hopping in every other week or once a month, and there's nothing there, you're probably going to get the same answer, just saying, hey, just wait it out, check the job board, and you'll be good to go. But if you wait when that job's posted, it'll be fresh on their minds and they'll be able to put you through the process. So I would just, in conjunction with the job board, look at the job board and update them once you've applied for roles.
Yeah, quick question about that. As recruiters, HR people, do you all chase after people? That is, my LinkedIn profile totally rocks, and you happen to see it through networking. And so you're going to call me up and say, oh my God, we have to have you in our company.
If I could just pop in briefly for a minute, if Abby and Joey have a couple more minutes to answer questions, that's great. I just wanted to say thanks to everyone who has to go because they have something at 11. Thank you very much. Okay, continue.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If there's a reason for us to quote unquote chase after a candidate because we like what we see, again, it has to be one of those things where we like what we see and we have a position for them. So that would be kind of the reason as to why we would do that. Not necessarily we chasing after somebody and then not have anything for them. I think that's kind of counterproductive, but there has to be a reason as to why we would do it, but for sure. And to kind of tack on to Kara, so one of the things that I think would be helpful too is to also understand what the company or organization's hiring practices are. For us, we hire on an as needed basis. So if you are a graduating senior who's not going to be eligible for work until later on this year, like in May or even December, applying now is not going to be, it's not going to be beneficial, because to Abby's point, what you see on the job board now isn't going to be reflective of what will be available as it gets closer to when you are able to work full time. So if you know if the company is hiring as needed, or if the company is looking to be able to hire and extend offers to graduates for employment at a later date, those are two different things. So know if you can find out exactly from a recruiter or a hiring manager or whoever it is that you have a first touch point with, then it would be beneficial, because that'll give you a good idea about timing, so you don't get lost in the shuffle.
Cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, well, we will start wrapping up today's session. Thank you all for attending. Again, really, really good information and some very helpful tips. So we look forward to seeing you on the next sneak peek.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.